Alright, so welcome back to the 30-day scripting challenge. It is now day 11, and sorry the upload has been pretty slow. I've been super pulled behind with school, but I'm gonna try to get some more stuff over with the rest of week 2 of the scripting challenge. So day 11 is going to be an NPC dialogue system, which means we can interact with NPCs and they'll talk to us and we can give responses back to the NPC. So for the setup here, I've simply just added an NPC model that has a proximity prompt inside of it, as well as that it has a tag called NPC, and then I've also made a UI inside the starter UI for our dialogue. It simply just has a frame where all of our choices will go, our template for what the choice will look like, and then a dialogue label, which is what the text will go to. So let's start. Let's get our script inside, our module script inside services here. For those who aren't caught up with the challenge, if you look at day 10.5, I talked about the new architecture that I'm using. So we're just simply going to call this NPC service. As well as that, I'm going to link 2 plugins, or maybe none, it depends on how I'm feeling, of some scripts that assist with the creation of module scripts. But we're now going to just say function NPC service init, and then function NPC service start. And for our init, we're simply just going to get all of the NPCs that have the NPC tags. So we're just going to say self.npcs. In this case, we're going to assign that to itself is going to equal to game.collection service get tagged NPC, and this will return all of the NPCs that are tagged with the NPC tag. And as well as that, we're going to create a remote event inside of replicated storage, or no, we'll do that in our start here. We'll make a remote. We're just going to say local initiate dialogue is going to equal to nil. In this case, it's a remote event. And then we're now simply just going to say initiate dialogue is just equal to instance.new remote event, and then initiate dialogue.name will equal to initiate dialogue, and then initiate dialogue.parent is going to equal to script.parent.remotes, which will be this remotes folder inside of our shared folder, which is what the client script will be looking for. And that's going to be the setup for our remote events here that the server will use to send to the client when we want them to open and close the UI. So now we're just going to loop through all the NPCs in the start function and check for when the proximity prompt has been activated. So we're just going to say for underscore NPC, which will be a model in self.npcs. We're going to check if NPC, and actually no, if NPC find first child of class proximity prompt, then we know that the NPC has a proximity prompt. We can just say local prompt will equal to NPC find first child of class proximity prompt, and then we're just going to say, when we'll actually give it a context here, we'll just call it a proximity prompt. We're going to say prompt.triggered connect function, and then the player who has triggered it, and we're now going to fire the remote event, and then we're going to send over the NPC, so that way the player can, or we could just send over the NPC data that the player will need to access. So to do that, we're going to make another module script inside of NPC service. It'll be a sub service. It's just going to be called NPC data, and it's going to be where all of the NPC data, for their dialogue, is going to be stored. So pretty much set this up. We're going to have all the players will have their own step in each NPC, and by step it means where they are in the dialogue. So in this case, one player could be at the end of an NPC's dialogue, and one player could be at the start of an NPC's dialogue. So for this case, we're gonna have that set up here. In this case, it'll look something like this. So what we can do is we can have a check here. So we can first do the initialize function. So we can just say function NPC data setup. In this case, it's just going to get all of the players, and it's going to add in the data for each player, or in this case we could use a data store, but it's not going to be covered in this video, so all of the players and all of the NPCs, and we're simply just going to say for underscore player in players do, we're going to say, or as a matter of fact, we could do this in this script here in our start, where we could check if the player has data, and if not, we'll create the data for them. So we'll do the data creation here, but as function. So if we'll say self player, and then the NPC, or no, actually we need to loop through all the NPCs. For underscore NPC in NPCs do. We're going to say self and then player. So we're going to add in the player in the NPC data, and then the NPC that we're going to add like the data to, and then we're going to have this equal to this empty table, where we're going to have a couple of things here, which are going to have step is going to equal 1 or something like that, right? And it's just going to be data of where they are in dialogue, and there can be more like things added into this like thing, where whether the player has certain keys in the dialogue, where if the player has this item, then NPC will talk differently. And we're going to call this setup if at the start, so we can at the right below here we can just say local NPC data is going to require script dot NPC data, and then in our colon init here we can just say initiate dialogue colon, sorry, not I made a mistake here. We can say NPC data, or actually no, it has to be, oh no, it can be here actually. What am I doing? NPC data colon setup, and then we'll do game colon get, game dot players colon get players, and then for our NPCs we're just going to do self dot NPCs here, and then I'll also do some classification here. So you'll do this to make sure that you say that it needs a table, and then inside of it you can say it needs a table with players in it, and then for this one you can say it needs a table with models inside of it, and that's what both of these will satisfy. So now that that's done, we're simply going to put a print statement here just for debugging. We're going to say print and then self player, and then yeah, that should be fine. So that way we'll be able to see if it's actually working or not. And after that we can now properly run this fire. But now we also have to have a function which is for the individual NPCs themselves, because all of the NPCs are going to have their own dialogue. So you can either store their dialogue into one massive module script, or you could create an individual module script for each of their dialogues. I personally am going to put it into one giant script. So we're simply just going to say function and then NPC data colon retrieve data, and then the NPC which we want to retrieve the data from. Now if we want, the reason we're doing colon here once again is so that we can store all of the NPC dialogue inside the module script here. So what I could do is I could also run inside of this setup, or I could make a different setup script. So in this case I could say function NPC data colon setup dialogue, and then in this case it just needs the NPCs, and then what we can have it do is we can have it loop through all of them and check which names are which, and then set it to the self. So this will be a really long bit of code here, and we'll get to that in a second here. But for this retrieve data function, we're simply just going to return, and then we're going to have this structured is it's going to be the NPC and then its dialogue. No, actually it'll be the step. So return and then return self and then the NPC, and we need a secondary value here, which is the step, which is a number. NPC and then the step. So what this will look like is it'll just be certain, and it'll make more sense here. It'll be just like a string. This will return a string. So we'll have this say string. It'll return that as 1. So now for this setup dialog thing here, what we're going to do is we're going to loop through all the NPCs first. We're going to say for underscore NPC and NPCs do, and we're not going to check the things here. So if NPC dot name is equal to, in this case my NPC is called the dialogue NPC. Then we're gonna give it the NPC, like the dialogue for this specific one here. So we're gonna have it formatted like this. So we'll do self, and then NPC is going to equal to this table, right? Where, because step is a number, what we can do is we can say 1 will equal this. So 1 is going to equal to hello, and then you can say 2 is going to equal to hey. I forgot, we gotta put these in square brackets here, I forgot about that. And then 2 is going to equal hey, so if say 2 is going to equal to how are you doing. And now this is where things are gonna get interesting, and I'll talk about it in a later half of this video. And that's how dialogue will change based off of responses that the player will give. So in this case, we're gonna have a couple of things to go on here. So I'll talk more about how we're gonna have questions later on, but inside each step, there's going to be a value which will be called continues. And what that means is, will the dialogue continue without the player having to respond? So in this case, this should really be a table on its own here. So I'll change that real quickly. So it should be a table, not square brackets. It'll be a table like this. And then in here we're going to have, so the message is going to equal to hello, and then let's add a comma here, and then continues is going to equal to false. So what this will mean is it's gonna have a user respond to it's gonna have the player have to respond to the dialogue in order for it to continue. And I'll get more into how the player will respond to the dialogue in a second here once I do the setup. So for questions, we're going to have a couple of paths. So we're gonna have the default at the start of each message, right? And then we're gonna have the NPC have its dialogue differ. Now you can build off of these dialogues for crazy amounts of time if you want like really intricate dialogues in games, but most games usually keep it simple with their dialogues. But I will get into this a bit more. I'm just trying to figure out a way to explain this as best as I can. So for the responses part, which we'll get to right now, we're gonna just simply add another table here. Whoops, sorry. Responses is going to equal to this, and then we're gonna have each response be, guess what, another table where it's gonna have the text that we want the response to be and the next value. So in this case, in our first step, we could have a response that will have the next step be 3. In this case, the third step would be like goodbye. So you could have a dialogue in step 1 just be goodbye, and it would skip it to the third step. So in our responses table, we can have each response itself be in a table. So we're getting a lot of nested stuff going on here. So we could say the text or message. In this case, I'll keep it text, so that way we'll say response. No, we'll say text. So that way the variables don't become confusing. And that's just going to be what our thing that the player is going to say is. And this one could be something like, hey. And then we're also going to have our second value, which is going to be the next. So it's just going to be where the next step will be. So next is going to equal to 2. So it'll move on to the second step after if the player chooses this dialogue. Now, we're going to make another one to go to a different step. So we'll just say the text will equal to goodbye, and then our next is going to equal to 3. So our third step will be where the dialogue will end. And now in this case, we can just copy this one over the first step, and we can rename it to a 2 over here. So we could say nice weather, and then we could have continues false, so the player can respond again. So our text could see, yeah, I love the rain, and then our next, instead of it being 2, we don't want it to go back to this dialogue. So in this case, we'll have the next be 3. And then for this one could say like, like it could be like a goodbye statement. So it could just be like, sorry, wrong person, and then it would take you to a different, so in this case next 3 would be an end dialogue, so then next, well, this one be 5 or something or whatever, right? So usually your goodbye dialogues would be like the same, so it'd be like bye is what the NPC would say. So all of these for the bye thing, that would all be like step 7 or something, right? Now we'll just do like a couple more to continue the dialogue just as an example here, so it'll make a bit more sense. So this will be step 3. Right, so I created a little tiny example dialogue here. Now if you want a continuation dialogue that the player will not be able to have response to, I'll show you that here. Instead of making a responses thing, we're going to have continues to be true, and then we're going to make another value, which is called next. And it's literally just going to be this next value, but outside, and not inside of the responses. And then we're just going to make a 6th one, which will be like the final one. So we'll just say goodbye. And then no next value, continues, will be false. So if you wanted it to continue without a response, you just add a next value here. And this will be kind of the structure of how dialogue will work. You know, it's kind of annoying, but if you want like really nice dialogues, you can. So that's going to be the dialogue portion of the thing, right? So self NPC steps is just going to be whatever this thing is here, which is what we want to access, and then self NPC is just all of the steps. I forgot a comma here. Not comma. Yes, comma. My English was failing me for a second. So this is going to be our basic NPC data thing. And now when the prompt is triggered, we're going to send all of the NPCs data over to the player, and then the player will take out each step and add it to their dialogue. So I can actually change this to just be return self NPC, like it doesn't even need to be the step, and it's gonna return a table. Well, I didn't mean to do that. It's gonna return a table. So in the prompts here, we're just going to say local data is just going to equal to NPC data colon retrieve data. We're going to retrieve the data that we want, and then we're going to send in the NPC that was activated. So it'll get us the dialogue, and then we're going to access the player, the player data. So by default, all the steps are 1. So we can say return self NPC and self player. So we can have the player be sent as well here. So it'll get us the step as well. So we can say local data and player data will equal to retrieving this data, and then also going to send in the player value here. Now with this, it's going to send us both the dialogue that we need for the NPC as well as the player's current step in the dialogue. And that's pretty much the first half of it. The other data that'll be handled is just when the player clicks on a dialogue option, it'll update their step. So when they begin the dialogue again, their step will be updated. So by default, it'll be the first step, and then when they access the data again, when they run retrieve data, they're going to use the second step here. So that's it. I mean, why am I saying that's it? I'm gonna record the second half later. I'll just combine the two because I have to sleep and shit, and I'm tired. I'm gonna combine the second half of this video with the first half because I actually sleep. This is the first half that I want to get done so I could get to it, and the other half I'll do in a little bit. So I'll just see you in 5 seconds with the power of editing. Okay, so this is continuing it later here with the power of editing. Super cool, right? So we now need to we gotta make a remote event so because now in this triggered we're connecting it to the client, we're pretty much sending over these two variables. So just initiate dialogue colon fire client, and then that player that we want to fire, right? And then we'll send this data and then player data. And I actually don't think we need to send over the player data, or actually we probably do. So we also gotta make a remote event for when the player needs to talk back to the server, and this is a safe remote event that we can do for the client. because all it is it's just continuing dialogue. So it's safe to run the client, but it can always be like secured and stuff. So we're gonna make another remote event here and copy this over, and it'll be called continue dialogue. Or friggin' need to make this appear. Well, so do that, and now we can connect that to a listener here, where we can just say, or we can have that in the start function here. We can put the listener right here. So continue dialogue dot on server event connect function, and then whatever we need, whatever the client will send back. So now what we can do is we can continue working on this, where we'll make two functions that the client will use and also the server will use to track data. So like getting the current, well actually no, retrieve data sends the step in here. So I guess we don't really need this. We don't really need to make another function. So we need a function to advance the step, though, advance the dialogue. So we're gonna say function NPC data advance dialogue, and then we need our NPC. Well, can it autofill things? And then the player, and then we also need the the next step. So it can be called the response step, which is a number. Now adding the question mark here is pretty much saying that it can be a number, but it doesn't have to be a number. Though in this case, the way I formatted it is it has to be a number. So in this case, it will be a number. So there won't need to be a question mark there. But it can also mean that it's optional. I think, I don't entirely remember. It'll mean that it's optional. So there doesn't need to be a response step here, because in case you don't remember, some of these dialogues here are like a continuation. So they don't have their own responses. So it'll automatically continue, right? So we just get local progress. It's going to equal to self player, and then the NPC, which will give us the data. In this case, we can access the step. So then we can just say dot step, not stio, dot step, which is right here. And we can rename this to step actually, instead of making two different variables. And then we can get the current step, so local current step. So it'll be it'll equal to self and then NPC, and then the step here. In this case, it'll be whichever one these things are right here, right? So we can do a little checking here. So sorry for the yawning. If current step and then dot continues, which is this value right here. If it's true and there is a current step dot next, and so in this case here it continues and there's a next, so that's valid. If it's not, we're not gonna do it. It'll error. We'll say actually, I think we do need to get the progress here. Local progress is just going to equal to self layer NPC, and then we can just take this out to say progress. We need the progress so we can update it here. So progress dot step will equal to current step dot next. That's what it's called. And then now we can do an else if for if it doesn't automatically continue. So else if we have the response step and there is a responses, so right here there's the responses thing right here, right? If there's this responses table and there is a response step, which means that there's dialogue option, put the end there. No, I didn't do that. We're just going to say local chosen. We're just going to get our chosen step. It's going to equal to the current step dot responses, and then our response step. It's what the player chose. And now we'll do a check if chosen and there is a chosen dot next. So if we have a next value in here, right, it's valid, then what we're going to do is we're just going to say progress dot step will equal to the chosen dot next. So the player's current progress will just equal to the next thing, and that's it. And then we can have it return I said that 3 times already. I mean, what am I doing? Return self, and then I cannot type today, what the heck? and then the progress step. So the progress dot step, we can have it return this in case that this be used. I don't think I'm going to use this, but I might just for now, so I don't need to change it back later. And then also we need to put the setup dialog here. So put self.npcs. So as a matter of fact, I think I'm just gonna clean this up here. I don't think I'm gonna include the retrieve data, have the data, and player data. I'm just gonna separate it to two different functions. So this one's only just gonna like return the data. I think it's better if I just if I clean it up, because sometimes that data might not be used. So I'll make another function here, which is like get step or something like that, right? So not local, sorry. Keep tripping. Function npc data colon get current step, take the npc model, and then the player, and we'll have this return the step here. So return. My brain is slipping here. We need to return the step, right? That's what it's for. So we'll get our progress here. We'll copy what we did in the advanced dialog thing. So local progress is going to equal to self player and then npc, and then we'll just grab the step here. So local step will equal to the progress dot step, and then we'll return the self npc and then the step. There we go. So that's like a solid helper function here. And then retrieve data, we can have it to just, as a matter of fact, we're just like delete this entire function completely, to be honest, and replace it with this get current step thing here. Might as well, like, it cleans the code up a little bit, saves some lines. So now we can go on the client here. So we can go into like the dialog frame, I guess, to put the local script. Though I wouldn't recommend doing this in like full games. I'd recommend keeping your local script organized. Now, this local script is literally only just going to be for the receiving end, and it's only to visually activate the UI. So it'll called like NPC dialog client or something like that, right? This is only so it'll open up the UI. That's it. We don't want it to do much other things. So now that we're on the client, let's get the what's it called, the remote events we created. So to do that, because we're creating the remote events in this colon init, we want this to wait for when the children are added. So we'll say local initiate dialog is going to equal to nil, and then well, actually here I'll just go back to this script, and we're going to copy both of these lines, and to now get the variable we'll just say replicated storage dot shared dot remotes dot child added colon connect function, and then the child will check if child colon is a remote event, then if and child dot name is equal to initiate dialog, or child.name is equal to continue dialog, then we'll set no, actually never mind, undo that. If child.name is equal to initiate dialog, then initiate dialog is just going to equal to the child's, else if child.name is equal to continue dialog, then continue dialog will equal to the child. Now if you want to, you could set these to be strings, so you could like have just this be equal that until, no, I'm just going off there, so gotta make sure I got the names correct. Alright, initiate dialog. Oh, see, that would have been there. This should be called continue dialog, not initiate dialog. I can't believe I skipped over that. See, I'm so smart. And then now we need to get our UI things here. So at the top here, we'll do like here, I guess. It doesn't really matter. So we'll say local choices frame is just going to be the script dot parent dot choices, and then local template is. So I don't know why I'm doing this, right? Because I'm using require autocomplete, like that plugin. It uses snake case for the like variables, but I sometimes am like used to camel case, so I'm like switching between the two, and it's like triggering me. But whatever. The template, that's just going to equal to script dot parent dot template. Now I didn't talk about this, but this was the UI that I made. It's pretty much a frame that has a UI list layout where all the dialogue choices are going to get cloned and go into, and the dialogue label is just what the NPC is going to say, right? So then our template is just going to equal that, and then local like label, I guess we could call it, that's just going to equal to no, I don't know why I'm doing this. I could just say like choices frame dot template, and then this will be choices frame dot, never mind. let me fix this. Okay, local dialog frame is going to equal to script dot parent, and then choices frame is going to equal to dialog frame dot choices, dialog frame dot template, and then dialog frame dot dialog label. There we go. Fix that. So this is for our interface here, which we can now like run the setup down here. So at the bottom here, we can run the like listener for our initiate dialog event. So say initiate dialog, the on-client event, connect function, and then in this case we're passing the data here. So data, put that in, and then we'll now like create a function for our dialog. So we can just create a function here, local function, like show dialog or whatever, like initiate dialog, whatever. And this is what's gonna like open up our UI frame. Like we're just gonna have it clone the dialog label for as many times as it needs to, and then populate the choices frame with it. So this will just simply need like our what's it called? It's gonna need our data. And then just remember, that's right, we also need to send the name of the NPC, so that way it can visually like tell you what NPC is talking. So we can do that really quickly just by like saying NPC dot name and then the data. So this is like visually, so that way we can like show it on the text label, like NPC who's talking, and then like what they're saying. It's just a visual thing. I forgot we can do that here. So NPC name and the data. So we can put in here NPC name as well as the data. So enter here, and now we'll just call this show dialog. And now for this, so the first thing we need to do is like make the UI, make this dialog frame here. Where is it? Or not the dialog frame. Maybe actually make this visible. So we'll just say dialog frame dot visible is just going to equal to true. And then we'll now set the label dot text. It's just going to equal to the NPC name, and then we'll put a colon here to tell us what they're gonna say, and then with a space, and then the depth. No, it's just the I'm sorry. The data dot the message here, because if I'm correct, yeah, we are here. We have the message variable inside of our like step here, so we'll have it be that, and then we'll create the like the player responses, right? So if I keep step data because that's what was used here, but it's just data. If data dot responses, so if the player's responses will make text buttons, we'll say for in this case we're gonna use the I. We're just gonna like set the like text label to like be I, so it'll be like response 1, response 2, etc. So for I, response in step. Oh my god, I'm gonna crash out if I type step data one more time. It's small, it's just data. If data dot respond, if in data dot responses, we'll say local clone is just going to equal to, we don't need to make an instance. We have the template here. We'll do template colon clone here, and then the clone dot parent will equal to the choices frame, and then the clone dot text is going to equal to the response dot text. Because in our NPC data thing here, if I'm correct, yeah, text called text. Okay, good. So that's just gonna set up our choice thing, and this is a text button, by the way. I hope. If it's not, it should be. I'm like half asleep, but I'm trying not to fall asleep. Well, now I'm just like going to click clone dot like activated. Quick little thing here. Use activated. I think I talked about this in like a previous video. Use activated like for general like things when you want someone to click on a UI like thing, because if you use mouse button 1, it's only gonna work for when someone on computer clicks the button. Not like if someone's on like mobile, it won't work because they can't click on a phone. If you do dot activated, it's just gonna be when like if I like left click or right click or whatever, it's just gonna be when that happens. But it's global. Well, whatever, that's something else. The activated colon connect function. We don't need any of the pass variables. This is just so that we can like send info back to the server. So we have our continue dialogue remote here. Not content. Continue dialogue colon fire server. So now we can talk back to our client here. So now when they've clicked on the button, we want them to advance the dialogue. So we're gonna go back over here to our to this connection here. Don't open the freaking AI. Okay, we're now going to we need to advance the dialogue. We have to like run this advanced dialogue thing, which uses the model, the player, and the step to increase it. So we'll have it pass in the player's pass by default, so that's fine. And then the NPC, and then the response step that we want. So we're just going to get local data that's going to equal to NPC data colon advanced dialogue, and then the NPC, the player, and then the response step, and then we'll just say initiate dialogue colon fire client player NPC dot name, and then the data. So that's just going to be our receiving end. So now on here we can, because we sent in the NPC's name. As a matter of fact, maybe we should just send the model, just the NPC model. You know, where is that? I'm just gonna send the NPC model here. So NPC dot name, because this is indeed a model. So we'll do that, and that way in this fire server, I won't have to like search the workspace for it. I can just like send in the model itself. So we can now just send in the NPC, and then in this case, because we used the I here, this will also count as the step, because each button is just going to be, each like I will be like this one or this one, right? Each response. So we'll just send in the I here, and that will just work like a charm. And then, you know, we also have to include for the auto, what's it called? The auto, like the if continues equals to true, right? So else if, oh, that's it, I'm done. I just typed step data again. If data dot continues, and then I keep doing it. Why am I made a separate variable. I'm typing a completely different variable. And data dot next, then we're just gonna like give it a second to like, you know, like let the dialogue like finish, and then okay, maybe not 1 second. I think I'll like give it 2, or I'll talk about that in a second here. We'll just do continue dialogue colon fire server, and then our NPC. So that's it for this. I don't need this. That's it for this right here. Now all we gotta do now is just like clear all of the responses once we move on to the next dialogue, and that's as simple as just saying like local function clear, which will just destroy all of the buttons. Say for underscore button in our choices frame colon get children, do if child. Actually, you don't even need to add this if statement, because we know for sure. Actually, no, we actually do, because there's a UIS layout. If the button colon is a text button, then we'll just say button colon destroy, and that's it. We can run that right here. Clear, right? Yeah, okay. We can put this clear here, so that way it'll make the frame visible, delete all the buttons, and then create the new buttons here, and that should be good to go there. And there's also a cool thing that I wanna show. This isn't technically a part of it, but it's a cool little effect that you could do with text to make it look like it's being typed out. It's called like the typewriter effect, and I really like it. It's super easy to make, even though it looks complicated, but it's super duper nice. Instead of setting the text here, I'll just like real quickly show you. You can make a function called type out. So just local function, I'll just call it typewriter, and then we just need to send in the label, and then the text, and how fast we want it to type out. This is a really nice function. It uses a function called string.sub, which is, I won't get into it, but it's a really nice thing. So we'll just say label dot. First we like set the text to like nothing. We'll clear, and then we'll start like subbing in letters into our text, which is what string.sub does. So we'll just say for I is equal to 1, and then the number of our text we'll just say label dot text will equal to string.sub, and then our text 1, and then I, and then we'll say task.wait the speed. So it'll type in at whatever rate. So then we can just say clone text.responsive. We'll just say typewriter, and then we'll put in our text label here, and then the response.text, and then our speed was just like 0.7 seconds per character. or maybe like faster. We want it to come up with like 0.07. It'll be pretty fast, and that's like literally it. You know, it's super nice. It's a really nice. Oh shit! Wait, no, I'm sorry. That's for the. I did this for the wrong. I meant to do it for the message, not for the. But if you wanted to, you can actually do it for each of the responses. You say task.spawn function here, and then put this. Or no, I think I don't entirely remember, but I think you can just do task.spawn and then the typewriter effect. I don't know. I'm like hella stupid right now. You know, brain cells aren't activating. Oh my god. No, so we'll just do the same exact thing here. So we'll just say typewriter, and then our label, which will just be just the label, and then our text will be the npc.name, and then with our concatenation, and then our data dots message, and then the speed will also do 0.07. Alright. So yeah, I mean that's like pretty cool. This typewriter effect looks really nice in game here. So let's give it a try and then start the debugging phase. And then we've already got 2 errors here, so give me a second. Okay, so I fixed one of the problems here. It was simply just like this right here, and then I went to do a little more testing here. So it's simply just that I didn't initialize the player like thing here. Cause see how I do self player NPC? I didn't initialize self player first, so this was nil, which was what was creating the error here. But now that works. But as a result, there's a couple more errors here. So because I do have a client loader that's loading this script here, I need to change it so that the client won't load it. I'll just real quickly I'll make an attribute which will just be called like run context. Okay, so I made a quick little attribute called run context here. In this case it's server, so actually I'll just change this because the server will have access to all of the client stuff. No, actually never mind, I don't care. So there we go, that's gonna change the Fire client can be called from the server thing, so only the server will access this. And then this one here, NPC data 59. So what's going on here? Oh, that's just like not making the player. Okay, so this should work now. Is it working? I have it set to print the thing. Okay, so the players thing is empty, so I'm just gonna make a variable called players here. And then I'll just delete this. I'll delete that variable, see if that works. Okay, it's still empty. So I added a wait statement right here to wait for the players to load in. And then there's another error here. Attempt to iterate over a no value. Okay, I put it in the wrong thing. I put it in setup dialog instead of setup. So this works properly now. And you know what happened in game? It'll print. It's gonna print the NPC and the step, and this is for each player. Now, every time the player joins, we want to run this setup. So I can actually connect to a game.players or game.players player added connect function player. It's better actually to do this instead. So every time a player joins, this will run. And then we put in a table because I have it looped. I don't want to change the code. So it'll still do the same thing. Alright, so now we should be able to click on the NPC and the GUI should open. Dialog NPC. Hello. So it opened this, but it didn't. Oh, maybe it's because I didn't make these visible. That's right. Let's go change that real quickly. Close the server loader out. Where is it? Clone.visible equals. So it'll say hey and then goodbye. So if I click hey, we have another error. Okay, attempt to concatenate nil with string 39. Okay, label npc dot. That's right. We need to take out that npc.name here. Alright, so we click hey and then nice weather. And then I'm gonna say yeah, I love the rain. And then rain is pretty lit. So that's the end of that dialogue, and then I should probably have it. I'll have the say dot visible is equal to not dialogue frame dot visible. So it'll either open or close depending on where it is in the thing or not. And then I'll also adjust this so that it won't always include. It won't always like type out the NPC's name. It'll just type out their response here. And to do that, we would just change the parameters here. So we would put another parameter, which would be the name. So it would be replaced. It would just take this out here, and then for the name, it would just be this, and then text will equal to the name value. So that way, when we click on it, it won't. Okay, what happened? And then we'll do name, and then concatenate string dot sub. So that way this should, okay, because this doesn't send anything. I could probably just have the name just like put in an empty string here. So there we go. Now it'll run this. I can say goodbye, and then it will close. I can say, oh well, then it does save for the player, so they can click off of it. So it saves for the player. So if I were to like join it back now, it'll say hello. I can say hey. Okay, I'm gonna change this actually, and I'll make a button to close it. Okay, no, I'm not making a close button. I'm too lazy for that. If you want to make a close button, just put a button in there. So interact. I'll say hello. Hey, nice weather. Yeah, I love the rain. Rain is pretty lit. And then you can spam the dialogue. Alright, you know, I'll make a button, and then I'm ending the video. There we go. Simple close button. I didn't. I'll make this invisible. Alright, now I can click the X. Bam. Closed it. Click the X. Bam. Close it. Alright, that's it for the dialogue. Day 11. This is a super long video. I'm gonna try to cut as much silence from the video as I can, so the video will not be like 2 hours long. But yeah, this is the dialogue system, and I definitely am gonna put this in a paste bin. I just don't know, because this is split into 3 different parts of code. So what I am gonna do is I'll probably put it into an RBXM package that you can download off of the description. So that's it for day 11. This one was quite, actually, I will say this is like the first like tiny little challenge for me, because for one, I'm like half asleep and I'm dead like recording this video, and also it's a very logic intensive system because you have to plan out how your NPCs are gonna like talk and stuff, right? You have to make the dialogue. Now I will say this isn't the most effective way to make a dialogue tree for NPCs. It's definitely not one of the most effective, but it's an easy way to script it. And if you like really want really long dialogues, you can, I guess you can. And you can also add special properties inside of each step, like inside of each response here. So maybe you can put a property inside, like a parameter here. So like parameters, right? Parameters, right? It'll be like, you can make a parameters table, and inside here you could say like closes will equal to true, like if you want this goodbye text to close the UI, and like, you know, any other like data that you want each like response to do. Like maybe if you want a certain response to like add on to a character, like give it an item or a special or interaction with an NPC, right? You can always add on to here, and it's pretty easy. Or you could just make an entirely separate module script that contains all of the dialogue data for your NPCs, or keep it in one module script. It's super simple. It's just all like modular, which is what I love about this framework. It's like blocks that you can drag and drop together. But yeah, things are only gonna get harder from here. In fact, tomorrow is, okay, you know what, actually tomorrow is actually not as hard as this. It's simply just a custom health system, so that'll be really easy. I can definitely like do that. It won't be as hard as day 11. But yeah, that's it for the dialogue system. I hope you all were able to stick through with how freaking torturous this video was, because I'm like dead, bro. Alright, I mean, like, I'm not dead from how hard it was to cut. I'm dead from like how tired I am. This was not really hard. This was just like logically annoying. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I will see you in day 12.